everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I am Domina Mara, and I make videos about my personal topical perspectives on female domination, short fetish films, kink interviews, world travel vlogs, sexy toy reviews, sensual hypnotic ASMR, and most recently, DIY by a dominatrix. As some of you may know, I have upgraded my home with filmable backgrounds and to fully enjoy the spaces I've made my own. Last week, we viewed my new studio office, the sunroom. Today, we are taking a look at my living room transformation. I have 3 main rooms in my home, 2 bedrooms, and a living area, and because of this, I've divided my home into body, mind, and soul. This living space is represented by mind. It will be where I invent new ideas and execute those scenarios using every open corner as a stage. In these makeovers, I'll be completely transparent about the costs of things and go over the process of restoration or how I added my own creative hand to improve the look. Although I myself am a luxury, I still have my artist maker side to fulfill. Most dominas will not admit to loving a great deal on products, but I adore being thrifty, especially for things like this rental. That's not to say that I don't seek out the very best quality. In fact, I only purchase new items from those who never knew what to do with those things. Or I restore items and give them new life. The best part is the price is only a fraction of what you would normally see, and I can spend my money on things like real filming equipment and custom implements. I always found apartments to be a temporary space to eat, sleep, work, and repeat. And so, I've kept it simple. I know this is not the place for me to settle down in, as my final goal is an actual house with a yard, a pool, and/or spa. In the last 5 years, I've accumulated many tributes from my adoring submissives, in addition to the treats I gift myself. Since I find sentimental value in my things, it's tough for me to let them go. I've even saved some boxes for specific items in case I move, knowing those boxes fit perfectly for their fragile condition. My excuse to myself was that I was always too busy working to tidy my space, thus piles just kept on growing, and I was starting to live in organized clutter. No longer. I have purged all of the non-essential things that are just taking up real estate. I have yet to watch Marie Kondo, but the title of her series says it all. I've stuck to the mentality of what exactly brings me the most joy in life that I actually use. I'm usually the type that has a very easy maintenance living situation, and let me explain. I would rather spend my money on experiences than, say, a bi-weekly manicure and pedicure, which I do enjoy occasionally. However, due to the current state of the world and having shifted some of my business to be more accessible online, I've also considered the longevity of having an actual decorated home instead of plain white walls during my stay here. And that could be used for filming custom clips as well as future YouTube videos for my channel. I sketched out what I wanted my spaces to look like ideally without the fear of budget to give myself the fullest potential possible. Afterwards, I allotted for $1,000 as my actual budget to see what I could do with sourcing and making myself as a challenge. I spent most of the budget, just under $500 for the living room since it had 3.5 areas to transform and decorate. Keep in mind that there are expenses like spray paint, glue, and other hardware tools that I'm not pricing out specifically in this video, but were accounted for in my spreadsheet. Lots of people are moving and downsizing because of the economic drop, and so I have found some very elegant new pieces or antique collector's items that need a quick coat of paint for steel. Yes, of course I've sanitized everything before I even put it into the vehicle, and once again when I got home. So, without further ado, let's get started. Last year, I originally went to a local actor's studio that was closing the next day to take a look at a Victorian sofa. But these 3 custom-made dressers with Hollywood collages drew me to their vintage look instead. I saw the potential for the set and liked the build of the sturdy foundation, so these came home with me with a shelf and 3 large mirrors for $15 total. Over time, I wanted to have something that gave a more classic feel to a modern version of old world style. I think my aesthetics can be seen as an adventure-seeking female Indiana Jones with the class and aspiring budget of the tomb-raiding Lara Croft. After cleaning, I was able to put the dressers as a grounding point for my living room walls. Only then could I set to work on the new look. I started by masking the center of the drawers off so that I could paint them a rose gold, and this set the tone for the color scheme of the entire dresser and later on the room. Painting took multiple coats, but taking off the masking tape was really fun, and touching up all of the edges with nail polish remover was satisfying. I could have sanded down the Hollywood collages, however, I kept them in case the next owners desired that art instead, since the paint I was using was removable with concentrated acetone and a lot of elbow grease. Painting over the laminate had to be done in stages. The first coat was a matte black to cover the faces. The second coat was a gold, however, the color was too yellow for my tastes, so I went over that spray with 3 coats of acrylic metallic paint. Originally, I wanted a crisscross pattern over each panel intersected by a diamond. Taping the sides was also a challenge, as the edges just kept bleeding regardless of the amount of fresh adhesive. But I didn't like how it looked painted, so I removed the design. The process of removal was painstaking, and I had to do more work to undo what I had originally done, as well as use more resources to cover up the experiment. I also ran out of the specific paint I used to coat the panels, but luckily I had 2 full versions of the same brand, when mixed together would make the same shade. Thank you, art school. The locks on the dressers no longer had keys even though they were functional, so I ended up buying these $15 brushed bronze round knobs to apply to the centers, which fit perfectly. I also painted the locks gold to match the trim and panels before applying the knobs. I bought $25 handles from the same company in a matching style because I literally had to claw the edges of some drawers and I kept breaking my nails just trying to get something out of them. I had to purchase additional screws because the ones that came with the handles were not long enough to go all the way through. Those were $2 from the hardware store. Something still felt missing in the middle of the panels, even though the painterly texture of the collage underneath gave a nice hammered metal feel. So I purchased a dozen of these locks for $20 and brushed them with the same gold mixture that I had left. And glued them with E6000 to the panels. I ended up brushing the handles and knobs to make the piece more cohesive, and I really love how these dressers turned out. Before the purge of my place, I pinned a curtain to hide the temperature control panel on the main living room wall, as I'm not too fond of seeing chunky, boxy appliances. The drape felt incomplete and obviously very one-sided, so I decided to have a focal point using a statement mirror in the room. Someone had previously mounted a bigger frame over a gold mirror and then used an old Ethernet cable to hang it onto the wall. I used the two D-rings in the back instead to hang the mirror vertically. I envisioned a grand curtain scheme for my dominatrix self, and valances came to mind. I always loved the look of multiple drapes, so I went to the Los Angeles Fashion District to check out prices for multiple yards and for cascade ideas. Most places either didn't have what I was looking for or couldn't restock what they had displayed due to the pandemic. A family was getting rid of a pair of fringed valances in gold, so I bought them and thought they would make for a great pattern for the other three I was going to have to make. I found this long, velvety gold curtain online that actually fit the whole length of my living room wall with a gorgeous damask pattern. Since it was more cost-effective than purchasing yards of fabric and the rod pocket was already sewn, I decided to purchase this for $66. The curtains were probably the most time-consuming thing out of every project in the room. I measured out the amount needed for the curtains to hang on the wall, then made sure that the valances and cascades I wanted to sew fit in the smaller piece. After making that cut, I folded the bigger piece in half and cut again. I sewed off all the edges so that it would be neat and prevent fraying. Since the material was made of tiny hairs, I had fun cleaning that up every time I made a cut. I took out the gold valances with fringes, and after placing it side by side, the color actually matched the fabric I bought. I wanted it to be close, but this was perfect. I cut off the tassels as they were extremely heavy and too long. I did consider purchasing smaller cut tassels, however, with the detail in the brocade, it didn't really need it. After serging the edges, I used these pieces as a pattern for the brocade valances. I wanted one big valance in the center to overlap the two solid gold ones. I've been sewing by hand since I was 7, so I decided to go that route since the fabric was thick and would probably break non-industrial machine needles. I could have gotten these drapes made by one of the tailors in the fashion district, but I gave my hand at making them myself since I've never done them before. It took multiple days, but I finally completed them in time. I kept the curtain from my original pin and cut it in half to create symmetry on the other side. Those edges had to be sewn as well. These curtains are actually from art school and are fire resistant. The design is scalloped and the same tone as the curtain, so it blends in nicely behind the brocade. I purchased this extending curtain rod from Joann's, and the day I went, it happened to be 40% off, so I bought it for under $14. The chandelier that is in my sunroom actually came with these round accessories that looked like it was part of another decor piece, and since they were gold, I decided to use them as finials. They also made a beautiful ringing tone when struck together lightly. Big tassels can be pretty pricey, but I was able to purchase a new pair for $10 to tie all the curtains back. This $40 vintage wall candle set came in the mail looking like it had been kicked around. The sconces were fine, but they did not end up looking like the product photo online. What is this paint job that looked like a 5-year-old completed it? Also, the metal bodies were different shades of gold. Anyway, I ended up painting over the candle covers to match the bodies, using the same acrylic gold paint mixed with a little black.
much better. These sconces were actually supposed to power electrically, however there was no electrical unit in this wall. So I decided to try and operate them via battery instead. The voltage ranged from 90 to 220, and that made for a nice dim setting since I have a lamp in the corner for general lighting. The problem was that these sockets were the same European E14s like the Moroccan lamp in my sunroom. None of the hardware or lighting stores had bulbs that would fit, so I made the decision to change the casing out to American LED E12s once again. I had a bit of help on these from AV, who connected the wires to a battery holder of two CR2032 batteries each. These brass push buttons were found at Ace Hardware for $5 each, but AV had to drill a slightly bigger hole in the center in order to fit them before installing the arms and completing the wiring. We hid it behind the unit by hot gluing the wires to the base.
Dans ce moment où Dieu fait semblant, dans ce moment où Dieu fait semblant de rire.
And shifted the bracket before mounting it onto the wall.
Fou de croire que l'amour pourrait nous suivre. Nous suivre. Braver l'amour reste notre seule lutte. 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 Braver l'amour reste notre.
These remind me of the Haunted Mansion. The lamp in the corner was stark against the rest of the gold accents, so I ended up painting the helix with gold acrylic as well as the two other lamps to match.
Braver l'amour reste notre seule lutte. En secret.
This includes the one in my sunroom. When I worked in corporate, I really loved having a rising desk, and since I've been independent, I find myself more sedentary than I prefer. I was given a padded self-healing mat I used at my last 9-to-5 job, and I'm glad I kept it. It fits perfectly under the dresser, and I can slide it out whenever I need to use it. The shelf looked best on the solo dresser, so I decided to make a shrine area. I purchased a narrow $15 bookshelf that was roughly the same height as my pantry, and it fit next to the dresser like a glove. As you can see, during the cleanup process, I made that my shoe shelves. Sadly, it doesn't even fit half of the shoes I own. The wall was empty between the two bookcases, so what better way to fill that space than to use another one of the mirrors I was gifted. The mirrors had different feels and sizes, but only two of them really matched what I wanted to do with the living room. I put the arched one between the pantry and shoes, and it just felt right. I ended up matching the gold from the dressers on the mirror to cover a few paint chips and to tone the orange color down to a rose gold. I've always had the makings of an altar for my spiritual work, but never an official one. Without the shelf, everything felt really low and the height felt so hip-oriented. The raise definitely gave both a literal and figurative elevation. I spray painted the shelf from a neutral wood tone to a matte black to match the bookcases. Since the shelf was the entire width of the dresser, I have a lot of space to add my sage and Palo Santo, my crystals, essential oils, blessed ashes, and purity votive candles. Other larger candles and things like tarot cards can be stored underneath. This globe was part of a pair that someone was selling at their estate sale, but since the other had been purchased just before I arrived, the owner gave this one to me for $10. It's stainless steel made in India. I spray painted it a metallic chrome gold, and the coat of the paint is also removable with lots of concentrated acetone. The sides of the mirror were originally planned to have frames hung next to it, but because of the unusual shape, I found these sconces with a similar almond vertical eye or infinity shapes that worked much better instead. I wasn't a fan of the brown on the iron sconces, so I spray painted them matte black and brush painted the helixes gold to tie in with the mirror. If you haven't guessed already, the color scheme of the room is earthy browns, matte black trim, and gold accents, very akin to ancient explorers' cartography maps. While I wanted this wall to be filmable, I also didn't want people to focus on the snacks I had on my shelves, so I purchased black tulle, the same kind as the white and wine fabric hanging in my sunroom. I measured about 8 to 9 layers for each shelf unit and cut accordingly. Sewing tulle is not the easiest as it likes to stick to itself. I cut strips of Velcro that I had in my crafting stash and adhered it to the tops of the shelves. The tack was not enough to keep even the lightweight tulle attached, so I went over all the strips with E6000. I bought these 4 beautiful bronze wall hooks online for $8 and used wall mounting strips to stick them to the sides of the bookcase units about the height of the dresser shelf. Hooking the curtains back was a breeze. This basket was holding a bunch of light bulbs that were gifted from an energy-saving company that gave a few to each resident. I decided to hide them with a faux ivy vine. Plants, real or faux, always make for great decor, no matter what interior style. I liked the copper tones of this tumbler set, so I decided to keep it on display above the pantry. To the left of the pantry hangs a watercolor print of a sailboat I picked up for $5. It was originally framed in a shaved bark texture and color, but since I liked the pattern, I decided to spray paint this gold as well.
Braver l'amour reste notre seule lutte. Braver l'amour reste notre seule lutte. Braver l'amour reste notre seule lutte. Braver l'amour reste notre seule lutte.
I think I ended up using 4 to 5 cans of metallic gold spray paint for all of my renovations. It fit perfectly on this wall, and I get to daydream of adventurous travels as I glance at it daily. I rescued these giant frames with prints of watercolor flowers, as someone was going to get rid of them since their grandmother was no longer with them. As pretty as these paintings are, I liked the gold of the frames, and the matting inside would make for a beautiful, more kink-inspired piece of art. I have a couple ideas of what I want to do to fill the space, but that will come in the future. It fits right next to the shoes, so for now, they will rest against the surface. Moving towards the opposite wall near the kitchen, there was a narrow surface that I knew could use some decor. These sconces were too pretty to pass up for $10. I spray painted them gold from silver and ended up hanging them with removable wall strips since they were light enough. This gold mask was a past New Year's session with one of my longest regular fetishists. A Above the doorway to the sunroom is a geometric arrow, which was also $10, that I gave a more metallic sheen since it was a dull gold. I have the arrow pointing towards the sliding window doors to represent spearheading open opportunities. Since the kitchen has a bar-type view, I decided to place an ornate fruit bowl which I got from the same seller as the sunroom curtains for $20. I usually had pears or onions lined in a row on the countertop, so this was a more elegant presentation. To the right is a white and gold whorled globe that I also got for $10, and beside that is my essential oils diffuser which I use daily. In front of this area is a mini liquor fridge that keeps all of my treats chilled, but again, the look of a chunky silver appliance box does not suit my tastes. So I purchased a peelable dark brown marble printed contact paper for $9 to cover the front and blend it into the background. I put my protractor to good use since I have given up on math long ago. I took a pelt from a bundle of other hide-type materials gifted from a shoemaking friend who was visiting LA a couple years back and placed it on top to hide the shiny black plastic. I got this treasure chest for $20 that was only holding an older man's fading newspapers from decades ago. I had received some new accessories from Liebezila and slightly legal toys, so I filled this chest up with those kinky goodies. Since I have a love for the tropics, the best way to bridge these styles was inviting a bit of the jungle and tying in Moroccan-inspired decor from the sunroom to the fireplace. My fireplace is gas-operated with this long key that goes into a gaping hole in the wall. I like having access to it, so instead of having my sofa in front of it, I decided to sell it and leave the space open. Should I have future guests over, lush cushion seating will be provided to make it more like a mobile lounge. To hide the gas ignition hole instead of filling it, I got these last two buy one get one white glass vases with metallic interiors from a hobby store for $25 total. Michael's was having a summer sale as well when I got these floral foam and moss packs for $6. The foam went into the vases, and I had white crinkle paper from a gift package mailed to me last year that I saved to fill the sides. After sticking in my $24 faux palm plants, I hot glued the moss together to create a flat layer that went above the foam to create a realistic green texture.
Dans ce moment où Dieu fait semblant de rire. Fou de croire que l'amour pourrait. Fou de croire que l'amour pourrait.
I ended up wanting to make the metallic color gold instead of silver, but this is where things went a bit awry. The exterior became extremely muddy, and the white texture on the outside of the vases ended up wiping off easily with acetone. So I painted white acrylic over the affected areas, waited for it to dry, then sanded off the extruded parts lightly to return it to its former glory. This shaggy rug was from the same bag of shoemaking materials my friend gifted me. It fit right over the fireplace floor under this tiger that I saw through the window of a thrift store, which I purchased for $5. I named him Raja. Above the fireplace, I wanted a gold lion head sandwiched by two round suns to reference my solar and lunar zodiac sign. Leos are a sun sign, and the small suns add warmth to this tropical hearth. The lion was $82 and the sun mirrors were $20. I found this lantern for $5 that was close to where Subgirl K lives, so I asked her to pick it up for me. She ended up gifting it to me along with other birthday treats this past August and dropped them off as I was renovating. The copper was worn, so I decided to use the gold acrylic paint to touch up all the surfaces after lightly sanding down the base from old price tag residue. I place the lantern behind the tiger to the right, along with a selenite tower which matches my shrine and my bedroom, which I'll be showing next week. Beside that, I placed one of the mini LED-powered lanterns from my short flow film, Oracle, that I have hanging in my sunroom. These candles were gifted by my grandmother and can change colors by remote, but I prefer to keep them neutral. Since I haven't used the fireplace in a few years due to it being warmer as every winter passes, I'm using it as storage. I got this pack of 16 stencils that exactly matched the size of these white tiles surrounding the fireplace, so I decided to paint the diamond damask design onto alternating squares. I tried using a sponge first to apply. The outcome was good, but it took so much padding that I decided to paint with a brush next. It didn't matter if I painted 1 or 2 layers since acrylic is thick anyway. I even tried spray painting the design on, but it left so much paint speckled around the neighboring tiles, I ended up wiping it off with concentrated acetone and reverted it back to acrylic. The same gold acrylic paint was applied onto the handles of the fireplace. The paint will be easy to scrape off both surfaces. There were an uneven amount of tiles, so I had to be creative and centered the design on the main 4 tiles and repeated the corner borders along the sides. These speakers alongside are connected to my sunroom around the corner, so if I want to listen to music in my living room, all I have to do is open the doors and press play. I already had this marble side table gifted from ES along with the tray and dish, and purchased this set of gold coasters for $8 to place on the dressers to protect the surfaces from my beverages while I work. MP gifted me this hourglass that is timed to 60 minutes, great for session references. I hand-sewn these raw silk green curtains the year I moved in, which was about 2015. And because it's already an earthy color, it matches the current decor of the room. Lastly, I wanted to leave the middle of the room free because I love open space to dance as an outlet, but I decorated half of the floor with a large black and gold oriental rug that was $15. I don't care if products are wrapped at the time of purchase. Like everything else I own, I always wash and dry what I purchase because who knows where it's been prior. Bonus project, I got these mint trimmings from another femme, and she instructed me on how to plant them in case I wanted to grow my own mint babies. And so I put them in these mason jars that I had, and in about a couple weeks, they started sprouting more leaves and roots started coming out from the bottom. Once the roots began to fill the bottom of the glass, I thought it was time to pot them. However, I didn't have any extra pots as the ones that I already own are being used. Luckily, another femme in my neighborhood gifted me these 2 brown ceramic planters, and I spray painted them gold to match my decor and really loved how these turned out. I will be gifting her mint trimmings when these become bigger. I've been making mojitos to keep myself cool during these warm days. All right, I think it's that time. Are you ready for the reveal? Let's take a look.
Reste notre seule lutte. Braver l'amour, reste notre seule lutte. Braver l'amour, reste notre seule lutte. Braver l'amour, reste notre seule lutte.
si j'ai envie. Coule alors dans nos corps serrés. Coule alors dans nos corps serrés. Envie.
Braver l'amour reste notre seule lutte. 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 Braver l'amour reste notre seule lutte.
That's it for my living room area. I've named this space the Lion's Den, as I'm harking back to my praying zodiac identity, and it fits the room appropriately. The last and final installment to my makeovers will be my bedroom coming next week. I want to thank all of my subs and fetishes for helping fund the renovations, as many of them gifted cash this year for my birthday, just to tribute because they are wonderful. If you would like to still donate, you may contact me by email at mara@dominamara.org, as I always have new projects and collaborations in the works. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it so that others can view my new living room makeover, subscribe and hit that bell so that you know when I'll be posting my bedroom transformation next. Comment below on what your favorite room or decor piece is so far, and until next time, stay safe, have fun, and keep it kinky, everyone. Hello, this is Domina Mara, and welcome to my channel.